Hello, welcome everyone to HFS Unfiltered. My name is Saurabh. I'm the president for HFS Research. And honestly, today's conversation is one that I've been looking forward to because, consulting is going through a moment right now. Enterprise consulting is going through a moment where it's very exciting, but it's a little anxious at the same time in terms of what's going to be the impact of AI on consulting. And so to talk through that, I've got the consulting leader for Cognizant, one of the largest technology and services firm. Who better to ask some tough questions on where consulting is going than Shweta? So Shweta, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Saurabh. Always nice to be talking to you. Looking forward to an engaging conversation.
So Shweta, let's jump into this from your vantage point. How is the world of consulting changing? And do you think traditional consulting is still sort of fit for purpose?
So, Saurabh, first of all, there's going to be a lot more consulting, even more because of AI. So, look, just like any other tech services, right? We are we're being impacted by this hyper productivity impact of AI, and that is in all our traditional consulting services that we deliver, we are infusing AI and are witnessing that productivity gain. Also, in the new services catalog that we are introducing for agentic transformation, we are experiencing the same. Um, but there are some unique impacts to consulting that I'm starting to experience, right? And I'll share that. So one is, I think my teams are not delivering slideware, just slideware now. And, where applicable, they are using vibe coding to deliver show and tell products, even take it all the way to proof of concept, which is very exciting. Second is, uh, traditionally, consulting was always very heavy at the front end of a transformation. And then you kind of started to slim down through the build and maybe no run. Agentic transformations sort of are very different. We require consulting skills, domain skills to be very heavily embedded even throughout the build phase for context engineering, ontology engineering, and even through run because you're constantly improving the agent performance post deployment. So that's the second change. The third one is perhaps specific to our consulting model, which has been traditionally tip of the spear. And so we've always had more of a diamond talent model. Agentic infused delivery is creating opportunities for us to expand the base of the pyramid, right? And I think on all these three dimensions, it's a very exciting time for consulting and definitely some unique impacts that we are seeing to our traditional delivery model.
So Shweta, you are clearly bullish about this whole impact of AI on consulting.
Mm, absolutely. I think consulting skills will increasingly start to get even embedded in other parts of the services organization. The skills aspect is going to be very important.
Yeah, 100%. And I really like the fact that consultants will no longer be measured by the number of PPT pages that they create. It will be actually uh, things that they do, and yeah, one of the interesting developments over the last few months, Shweta, has been the model makers coming into the consulting market, right? Anthropic announced, was it a $1.5 billion fund to get engineers right into the client operations. OpenAI is doing the same. So it seems the LLMs are getting into the sort of consulting or the services market. How is what is your perception of how does that change the consulting game? Is it now you is it does it expand the competition? Is it actually a good thing, or do you think it's sort of going to disrupt consulting players such as you?
So I think first of all, the model makers entering the services space is the biggest endorsement as to how important the service market is going to be. And perhaps should start to reverse the rather muted valuations that we've seen for the services industry over the last several months, right? Um, Look, I think, Cognizant, and especially our CEO, has talked about, introduced this concept of AI velocity gap, which really talks about the huge gap that we have in the model capability and the true enterprise value that our clients are able to realize. The only way to bridge this gap is going to be the services space, right? Now, I don't see, well, I feel confident to take on this competition from model makers because there's years of experience that we have on scaling the services model. And also, in this case, being able to take a very agnostic advisory approach to our services model. Uh, and I'm going to bang on these two things and take this competition head on.
Yeah, and Shweta, at HFS we coined this term called services as software, which was really about sort of the blurring of lines between software and services, right? As you just said, consultants are no longer just creating PPTs; they need to be vibe coding and creating actual software, which is a great example of what we've been talking about as services as software. How does that term resonate with you, Shweta, and how is Cognizant sort of bringing that to life? If you are.
So I think the term completely resonates, Saurabh, in its mature state. And as we start to agentify processes, we'll see a model where it is an agent operated end to end process, and humans are either managing or just managing the agents, or they are managing exceptions. That is a software agents that are running that entire process. The way it's playing out for us in consulting, in Cognizant, is we are seeing ourselves increasingly start to partner with our BPO services organization, which was perhaps not as often in the traditional world. Because in order to deliver the next generation of BPO model, you have to start putting in the agentic solutions to it. And that's where consulting is getting embedded, right? To design the agentic blueprint for the outsourced processes. I think the best example of this, which is playing out, is in the customer service space. A lot of your simple tickets or call, or your first call resolutions are now totally being driven by AI or agentic, and the humans are used for exceptions. So that is a great example of services as a software, and it's creating an opportunity for consulting and BPO teams to come together to put that solution.
Shweta, I think call centers is a fantastic example, and I think there are so many of these high volume processes. Look at payroll, look at accounts payable, look at so many of these business transactions. Like in today's world, why do you need 1,000 people to process your payroll? Right? It just doesn't make make sense. Since we launched uh, or coined this term over the last 1.5 2 years, every enterprise leader that I've talked to, Shweta, really likes the vision, really wants to move there, really wants to move towards services and as software. But then the realization comes that, oh, I don't have the right data. Oh, my people are not ready. Oh, my workflows are like 20 years old, and my I have this spaghetti of technology which I don't know how to unravel. I'm sure you're getting we're calling these enterprise debts. These are things that are not on your balance sheet, but everybody sort of feels the pain. What's your advice to large enterprise leaders to unravel some of this?
Yeah. So, sort of, we are at least starting to see a lot of the technology debt being taken care of. I almost call this the unfinished job of the erstwhile digital transformation, like legacy modernization, data modernization, because the AI is making it so much more uh, productive, and the ROI is starting to stack up. Where my advice is for the clients is, do not underestimate your talent debt. You can put in, you can implement the technology, you can start to re engineer the processes, but unless your teams can really come along and make the impact, your investments will not generate the ROI. And this talent debt or people debt is the skills gap for sure, but it's also a very deep seated anxiety that people have on what this can potentially do to your job. And I think these two aspects, we have to start addressing it very quick. I have experiences in my client organizations of driving bottom up innovation frameworks, which I think is a great way to really onboard the employees in this transformation journey. And so, as top down, you drive, you empower the employees with tools and skills, but you drive bottom up innovation processes to let them start innovating their own work. This is the best way to start building scale in your early efforts and start to address that talent debt. I think once you address this, the other aspects will start to flow on their own.
So so go after the talent debt first.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The other challenge, Shweta, that I'm hearing from a lot of my clients is we don't know how to buy and sell these new consulting services or AI enabled services or services as software. We've been used to buying any service on some sort of a human rate card, right? Whether it's BPO or consulting, even McKinsey, we buy McKinsey on rate cards, right? Uh, and then on the other hand, the model makers are selling tokens, and nobody knows what tokens really mean. Nobody can budget for these things. They don't have a real world value to this. Like, how do I know how many tokens do I need to process an invoice, right? It's just completely esoteric. So neither does the FT world or the rate card world works now. I think the tokens are too abstract for the real world to absorb. So how do we buy this services as software or these AI enabled consulting services?
Yeah. So, sort of the pricing is still a challenge and it's very early days. Right? I'm starting to see some uh, seeds of change start to happen. Uh, AI transformations, by their sheer nature, are now being owned and driven by the business CXOs mostly, right? And there, when you have the opportunity to interact with them directly, right, business outcomes becomes a common language. At least I have written, frankly speaking, two contracts, only two by now, when we are really talking about some real business outcomes being embedded into that pricing framework. But 95 or perhaps even more percentage of our dealings is still with the procurement organizations. And I think there the transformation is still to happen. There are some early conversations or early seeds that we are seeing where we are now starting to embed agents in our rate card framework. So every time, it's not just the human rate card, but when we are bringing a human along with an agent, how do we price that? So create a very different kind of a rate card, which is both human and digital labor together. So, but these are very early experiments, and still, I wouldn't call this the de facto standards.
Yeah, no, you're right. But at least you're trying new stuff, Shweta, which is encouraging. Look, this has been a fascinating conversation, Shweta. But before I let you go, I wanted to ask you a slightly personal question because you've been in this industry for so long. You've seen different ebbs and flows of the consulting world, the IT services world. But at least for me, Shweta, I don't know how you feel about it. This kind of change is I've not seen in my at least lifetime. And so how are you changing as a leader, right? What are you doing differently now? What should, other leaders, what can they learn from how you're learning or unlearning stuff, and how is your leadership style changing, Shweta, in this world?
I think I'm now really reliving my very early years of my career, right? Where I have to be very enthusiastic about learning, getting my hands into this new tech. So really I call this, attempting to be a player coach, because I cannot lead my team unless and until I have experienced this technology and its impact and productivity gain on my own. So, one aspect of my leadership style is setting aside very deliberate time every week to learn about the technology and use my hands to do something with it. I remember how excited I was when I participated in Cognizant's vibe coding event, right? And, you know, uh, and really got my hands using Lovable to build a very small app, right? So that's definitely one change, and I'm encouraging all my leaders to do the same. Uh, the second is, and which is what we've been advising our clients as to how to build a bottom up innovation ecosystem. I'm experiencing that within my team, right? As opposed to always trying to drive new offerings from the top. If you start studying how your teams are actually working on their with their clients on their programs, there's some really fantastic innovative ideas being developed there. So my job as a leader is to create that platform where we can quickly discover this, harden it and probably launch it as an offering. So I'll just give you an example. In the last few months, when we said, look, we want to launch AI assisted BA services, I almost found four projects who are already doing that. Right. So then how do we bring this very quickly together and then launch it? So for me, again, being very observant about how teams are going about their day-to-day job itself is creating some fantastic ideas on how to transform, our delivery model using AI.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating, Shweta. Thanks for your time. I really like this player coach model that you outlined. I think today's world is all about doing stuff. Let's get it done. It's not about creating some PPT, as you mentioned, and recommending and going away. Whether you're a consultant, whether you're a BPO provider, whether you're a software engineer, we all have to do things. Whether you're a mid manager, entry level person, a leader like you, it's all about just getting stuff done, right? And I think that's my biggest takeaway from this conversation. Shweta, thanks again for spending some time with us. I took away a lot, and I hope people who are listening to this got got a few nuggets of wisdom as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Saurabh. Always lovely talking to you.